Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today, as it is every day, as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that kind of good stuff. And we got a hell of a lot of stuff to cover on today. And I just want to say to everybody in the United States and in Canada, happy Labor Day. It's the holiday in both countries. I often don't understand or totally miss a lot of the holidays in the United States because I'm Canadian and I don't know what the American holidays are, but this is one that falls on the same day. So I can say that. And just, you know what? Happy Labor Day to everybody, all my international friends all over the world anyway. All right, let's jump right into it. And of course, we're going to start off today as we do with most days, which is looking at the results of the last question of the day. Now, back on Friday, brand new Predator trailer hit. I thought it was outstanding. So I asked you guys in the question of the day, does the new Predator trailer make you more excited for this Predator movie? I thought it was the best trailer they put out yet. I thought it's a trailer they should have led off with, to be honest with you. But here's what you guys had to say. The results are in, and you guys said overwhelmingly that yes, this Predator trailer has made you more anticipating the new movie. 76.32% of you have said you are more excited for this movie now. Only 4.5% of you seem to not like the trailer and said it made you less excited for the film. And a good 19.14% of you guys said, no, you still feel the same. You feel the same amount of excitement, high or low, that you had for the Predator movie before the trailer. So once again, you guys seem to have reacted very positively to this Predator trailer. 76.32% of you saying that the latest trailer, the Red Band trailer, has indeed made you more excited for the film. So there you have it. Now, we, of course, have a brand new question of the day today, but we'll get to that one in just a little bit. Now let's go on with some other stuff right off the top here. It is Monday. That means the box office results are in. And here's your top 5 at the box office from this past weekend. No surprise, Crazy Rich Asians came in at number 1 again. It's its third number 1 weekend in a row at $22.235 million. Here's the thing. Crazy Rich Asians only took a 10% drop from last week. Here's where it gets really crazy. From weeks 1 to weeks 3, Crazy Rich Asians has only taken 15% drop. It took a 5% drop from week 1 to week 2, which never happens. And now it's taken another only 10% drop from week 2 to week 3. Now, a lot of the films this week only took small drops because it was the Memorial Day weekend. But still, at only 10%, that was the least drop out of any of them. And again, absolutely unheard of. Dropping 15% from week 1 to week 3 is absolutely crazy. Crazy Rich Asians now is made over $130 million worldwide on a $30 million budget. That's more than 4 times its budget it's made, and it hasn't even opened in a lot of markets yet, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. So Crazy Rich Asians takes the number 1 spot for the 3rd week in a row. Coming in at number 2, The Meg, making another $10 million. This film's made over $400 million now, and is now safely in the, hey, the film's profitable. It's not hugely profitable, but it's profitable. Coming in number 3 is Mission Impossible Fallout, makes another $7 million. The new Ben Kingsley film with Oscar Isaac, Operation Finale, opens up at $6 million. And the new John Cho, Deborah Messing film, Searching, comes in at $5.7 million. So there is your top 5 for this week. And again, Crazy Rich Asians just seems to continue to be on a roll. I actually want to go see it again. I want to go watch it again. Again, with Crazy Rich Asians, I've said this before, I will say it again. It is absolutely not the best romantic comedy I've ever seen. It's not a great movie, but it is a solid little romantic comedy. It is charming, it's got some heart, and it's definitely got laughs and giggles, and it has entertainment value. It's a solid little film. Not one we're going to be talking about years from now, other than its, the significance of it, but it's a good movie, not a great movie. But if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to at least check it out because I think it's going to give you some smiles. All right, let's move on to this now, also off the top, before we get into our main topics. We've known for some time that the studios have been trying to get a new Die Hard movie off and running. They've been developing it for years, and for the longest time, it's been known as Die Hard Year One. Now, for a while there, it started to look like this movie wasn't even going to happen. Then last month, director Len Wiseman came out. He said, no, we're still on track to make this movie. We're just putting the final touches on the script, and we may even be shooting before the end of the year. Like, that's within the next few months. So this new Die Hard movie may actually be shooting the next few months. But today, a new piece of information dropped, and that is this, that the title for Die Hard, the new Die Hard is not Die Hard Year One, which I'm glad because it sounds too much like Batman Year One. The new title for Die Hard is not Die Hard Year One. It's actually going to be called McClane. So the name of the movie is actually now officially called McClane. Now, I'm still not clear on if it's going to be called Die Hard McClane or if it's just going to flat out be called McClane. But either way, the operating title right now for Die Hard 6 will be called McClane. Now, one of the things that we've known about this film for a while now is that it's going to have two concurrent stories running parallel to each other. One with John McClane in the 70s as a younger man, and one with Bruce Willis running along at his current age and present day, right? Now, there were some rumors that the vast majority of Die Hard 6, whatever it was going to be called, before we knew it was going to be called McClane, there were rumors going around that Bruce Willis would actually just have a small part in the film and that most of the film would focus on the younger version of him. I don't know, maybe they'll go get Joseph Gordon-Levitt again, since he played the younger version in Looper. But the producer of the film has just come out and kind of laid that to rest. He talked about why they're calling it McClane and the fact that, no, don't listen to those rumors. So here's what the producer of the film, Lorenzo de Bonaventura, said. He said this: "You can tell our intention by the fact that the title page we handed in says McClane. We want you to get invested in John McClane more than ever before. I don't know how you do Die Hard without Bruce. The idea that he's not very significant in this movie is not accurate at all. We are going to explore John McClane in his 20s, but just as prominent is the 60-year-old virgin. The 60-year-old version. 60-year-old virgin, folks, the new sequel coming from Steve Carell. No, so the 60-year-old virgin. So here we've got the producer of the film saying, this is why we're calling McClane, because we really do want the focus of this movie to be on the character. Probably more so than the action going on. And the fact that they're going to be doing like a two timeline story thing here back in the 70s, and it's probably going to be a story that then comes back to revisit him now in his 60s, right? So that's a cool idea, and it's really going to focus on the character more than the action itself. I like that idea. Personally, I like that idea a lot. The last couple of Die Hard movies is just John McClane has just been a chess piece to inhabit all the action going on. The idea of now at this point, especially with John McClane now being 60, the idea of now focusing a bit on the character and who he is, I like that a lot. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm not saying the movie's going to be any good. Not at all. It might be terrible, but I do like the overall idea of it. And I also like the idea that they're going to probably split the screen time up evenly, because it just wouldn't feel like a Die Hard movie if you had Bruce Willis in it for like 15 minutes of it, as opposed to like a solid hour of it. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I think that's pretty good news, so that all works for me. All right, guys, let's now move on to the main topics of the day. And how do we pick our main topics? Well, it's simple. You guys pick out our main topics by emailing me your topics and questions to john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's emailing me your topics anytime to john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less, and then maybe you will see your email show up here on The John Campea Show. All right, with that out of the way, let's get rolling into main topic number one. And the first main topic today comes to us from Brad Jovadale, who writes, I noticed that Incredibles 2 has crossed the $600 million mark at the domestic box office, which makes it just the 9th film in history to do that. How significant is that achievement for the film? I myself love the movie. What are your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Brad. And yes, for those of you who may have missed it, Incredibles 2 continues its, pardon the pun, but incredible box office roll. The film, it jumped into the top 10 all-time domestic box office films, crawled into the number 9 spot, and now has become just the 9th film in history to make $600 million at the domestic box office alone. And it's in great company. It moved ahead a little while ago of The Dark Knight, but it's just sitting a little bit behind, probably won't catch, but sitting just behind Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Marvel's The Avengers, Jurassic World, Titanic, Avengers: Infinity War, Black Panther. Yes, a lot of people that surprised them. Black Panther made more money domestically than Avengers: Infinity War did. Avatar, and then of course the record that may never be beaten, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, making $936 million at the domestic box office. Incredibles 2 becomes the only animated film in history to make $600 million domestic, which makes it the number one, and domestically, the number one domestic box office animated film of all time. The significance of that is crazy, but it's not the only achievement that Incredibles 2 has hit. It has been an amazing ride. Let's take a look at this. As I just mentioned, domestic animated, it is the #1 film of all time at the box office. At the domestic box office, animated film's #1. Worldwide animated film, it's the #2, only behind Frozen. It's probably not going to catch Frozen, but Frozen is still the #1 animated film worldwide, but Incredibles 2 now sits at #2. All-time domestic, animated, live action or not, The Incredibles is the #9 film of all time domestically, and worldwide is the #17 film all-time, live action or animated regardless. #1 domestic animated, #2 worldwide animated, #9 all-time domestic, #17 all-time worldwide. Now, this is a film that a lot of people, including myself, were like, where the hell is Incredibles 2? We've been asking for this for over a decade. We've been asking for this film forever. And so there were some question marks surrounding the movie about, is it too late? Is it too late for The Incredibles 2? Now, a lot of people said, nah, the movie's just too popular. People just beloved that first one too much. It's not too late. But it was a fair question. Is it too late? Or even if it's not going to be a financial flop, can it make really that much? Is there that much interest in it? Well, the answer to that question is obvious. I mean, there's your answer right there. Was it too late? No, apparently not at all. Now, of course, no small part of this is the overall quality of the film. Incredibles 2 is just amazing. I am honestly still not sure if I prefer Incredibles 1 or Incredibles 2. Like, I liked Incredibles 2 that much that I'm not even completely sure at this point which one I prefer. But whichever one you prefer, there is no doubting. It is not up for debate. It's not a matter of subjective opinion. The Incredibles is the #1 animated film of all time at the domestic box office, #2 worldwide, #9 live action. I mean, the success of this thing cannot be overstated. So it's really relevant. Now, that raises the question, what's the likelihood of an Incredibles 3? From a business point of view, it's unquestionable. You have to do Incredibles 3. It's the #1 animated film of all time, #9 all-time domestic box, #17 worldwide live action. From a business point of view, you got to do #3, right? Well, the thing is, we just talked the other day, director Brad Bird was just in the news again, talking about how he really doesn't like doing sequels. So I don't know how Brad Bird can say that and now come back and do another 3, and it took them a long time to get him to come back to do #2. So whether or not there's going to be a Incredibles 3, I just don't know. Honestly, I think it's going to come down to, is Pixar comfortable with doing an Incredibles 3 without Brad Bird? Because I got a feeling Brad Bird's not going to have any interest in doing it. So ultimately, that whole question about will they do Incredibles 3 is going to come down to the question of, will Pixar feel comfortable doing an Incredibles 3 without Brad Bird? That will answer that question. And honestly, I don't think they are. I don't think Pixar wants to do an Incredibles 3 without Brad Bird. I think they want to do an Incredibles 3, but not without Brad Bird. So honestly, I'm going to guess that we're not going to see Incredibles 3, to be honest with you, which is weird to think about when you're talking about a film that just crossed the $600 million mark domestically alone. It's in the $1 billion club worldwide, and yet I don't think they're going to do a third one. So, hey, we'll have to see if I'm wrong on that. I hope I am. All right, let's move on to the second main topic here. And the second main topic today comes to us from Marcus W., who writes, "Hey, John. I remember you saying a few weeks ago that Dave Bautista seemed to be doing everything he can to force Disney to let him out of his contract. He's still going. He was on a talk show today and flat out said he doesn't want to work for Disney anymore. How close are we to seeing Disney actually let him go, or will them?" You probably meant will they, or will they? Well, that's a really good question. Now, this of course goes back. This drama just keeps getting dragged out, and more Dave Bautista is backing Disney into a corner. And that's really the story here. It's not really the James Gunn situation anymore. Now the story is Dave Bautista is backing Disney into a corner. And how is Disney going to respond? That's become the big question here. Because for those of you who missed it, this is what Dave Bautista, he was on a televised talk show the other day, and this is what he said when the whole Disney thing came up. He said the following: "There's a bit of an issue. It's a bittersweet conversation. No, it's a bitter conversation because I'm not really happy with what they've done with James Gunn. They're putting the movie off. It's on hold indefinitely," talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But here's the key part. "To be honest with you, I don't know if I want to work for Disney. I've been very vocal about the way I feel. I'm not afraid to admit the way I feel. Reading that last part again, to be honest with you, I don't know that I even want to work for Disney. I've been very vocal about the way I feel. I'm not afraid to admit the way that I feel. Now, when he says that I haven't been afraid to voice how I feel, he's referring to some comments he made nearly a month ago, particularly this one very, very strong comment he made about a month ago when he said this. He was asked if he was still going to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3, to which he replied, "I will do what I'm legally obligated to do." In other words, Dave Bautista just said, I don't want to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You know, he's asked, will you do Guardians of the Galaxy 3? And instead of saying yes, he says, I will do what I am legally obligated to do, which means I am legally obligated to do it, but really underneath it means I don't want to do it. But anyway, let's revisit that comment again. I will do what I'm legally obligated to do, but Guardians without James Gunn is not what I signed up for. Guardians of the Galaxy without James Gunn just isn't Guardians of the Galaxy. It's also pretty nauseating to work for somebody. The dude just said it's nauseating to work for Disney. It's also pretty nauseating to work for somebody who would empower a smear campaign by fascist cyber Nazis. That's just how I feel. So at the core of this thing, and we're going to get to what the main topic really here is, and that's about, the position that Disney's now in. We're not going to revisit the whole, did Disney do or not do the right thing with James Gunn? We've covered that ad nauseum. We already know how Dave Bautista feels about it, and he feels sickened by the whole thing. We know that. So what has been clear for a while now is that Dave Bautista wants out of Disney. He wants out. He does not want to be Drax the Destroyer anymore. However, he has a contract. He is legally obligated to do this film. That brings us to the big question here. If you're Disney, what do you do? And you may think it sounds like an easy answer, but it's really not. Because you might think on one hand, well, hey, the guy doesn't want to be Drax, no problem, let's let him out of his contract. But there are repercussions of doing that. Look, when you're a company, when you do business of any kind, the reason you get contracts is that so you know you can rely on the performance of the other parties, right? And if they don't perform, then you have some recourse that you can go and take. The idea of getting in contracts is so that you become mutually obligated to each other. That's the idea of getting contracts. Here's the tight situation Disney is in. If Disney does not let Dave Bautista out of his contract and they make him do Guardians of the Galaxy 3, well, everybody now knows one of the stars of the film doesn't even want to be there. Everybody knows. Dave Bautista has shouted it loud and clear. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in these movies. And that is going to cast a shadow and put a stain on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm not saying it'll be a crippling shadow. I'm not saying it'll be a crippling stain. I'm not saying it's going to turn Guardians of the Galaxy 3 from a money-making movie into a money-losing movie, but it ain't going to help. And you're going to have this blemish on the project all the way through the production, all the way through its premiere of one of the stars doesn't even want to be there. And is going to be probably vocal about it all the way through. So, on the one hand, you can force him to stay in the movies. You can do that. You keep your continuity, you keep your Drax the Destroyer, everybody likes him as Drax the Destroyer, blah, blah, blah. But the repercussions are, you've got this blemish now. And you're going to have this constant fly on your wedding cake that everybody knows this guy doesn't even want to be there. Or you're Disney, and you can decide to let him out of his contract. Okay. Well, now you don't have this complaining going on, but now you've got to face a new set of problems, which is this. By just letting a guy out of his contract because he complains, you are setting a very dangerous precedent. Now it's going to be known to all of your cast that you signed contracts with. Hey, everybody, if you're not happy with anything we do, just let us know. Just complain about it publicly and we'll let you out of your deal. Don't like your contract anymore? Just complain publicly and we'll let you out. No problem. We won't hold you to your obligations, your contract. Just complain publicly and we'll let you out. That is a position that Disney cannot really be in. Disney's got to be very cautious about putting themselves, any company would have to be very cautious about putting themselves in a position of saying, hey, you don't like your contract anymore? Just complain about it publicly and we'll let you out. no problems, right? They cannot let themselves get into that kind of a position. So the way I'm looking at it, Disney is in a very difficult spot. You can't keep them in there. You can't force them to stay in, and yet you can't let them out. There are pretty bad repercussions either way. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You let him stay in, you've got this blemish overshadowing everything that this guy doesn't even want to be there. You let him out of the contract, now you're sending out a signal to what happens next? What happens if Zoe Saldana is more upset about this James Gunn situation than she's let on? And she goes, oh, you let Dave out of his contract? Okay, I want out too. What's to stop her from doing that? What's to stop Chris Pine from going, hey, we all signed a thing that said we want James back and you didn't do it. I want out too. Like, seriously, what's to stop anybody else in Guardians of the Galaxy or anybody else in the MCU going, oh, you're letting people out of their deals just for complaining on Twitter? Can I get out of my deal, please? What's to stop that? It's a tricky situation. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what the answer is. I see that there being pros to doing either, but obviously, as I've just discussed, there are also negatives to doing each. So that brings us to today's question of the day. Now, about a month ago, when Dave Bautista made that Twitter comment, I asked you guys, we made a question of the day, will Disney let Dave Bautista out of his contract? And it was close. About 53% of you said yes, they will let him out of his contract. About 47% of you said no, they won't. But that was about a month ago. Today, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question for today's question of the day. And today's question of the day is a little more tricky. It's not will Disney let him out? The question is, should Disney let Dave Bautista out of Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Now, he's already shot Avengers 4, so that's already done. Nothing you can do about that. But should they let him out of his deal? That's a more tricky question. And I think has more layers to it because I think a lot of people want to look at this question and go, oh yeah, that's easy, you let him out. Or, oh yeah, that's easy, you got to keep him in. It's not that easy. So I'm asking you guys, what would you do if you're the head of Disney right now? The question of the day, look in the description of this video. At the very bottom of this video's description, you'll find a link to today's question of the day. Just click on that link, go on over, and let your voice be heard. Let us know what you think. And here's what we got right now. Over 100 of you guys have already responded. And right now, 71.32% of you are saying yes, they should let Dave Bautista out of his contract. That's got problems that goes along with it, though. And then 28.68% of you are saying no, they shouldn't let him out of his contract. But that has some problems going along with it, too. It's a tough one, guys. But again, that's the question of the day. Go to the description of the video below. Go to the bottom. Click on the link and let your voice be heard. We will, of course, look at the results of today's questions of the day on tomorrow's The John Campea Show. And I am dying to see what you got here, because let's just admit it, guys, it is a sticky situation. It is a tough situation that they're in. And, and if it's, I don't blame Dave Bautista if that's how he feels, okay. Disney has got they're backed into a corner. I honestly wouldn't blame them for forcing him to do Guardians 3. I honestly wouldn't blame them for letting him out of his deal. But there's going to be negative repercussions whichever way they go. It is truly a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Let's see how this all turns out. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Dennis Ridley, who writes, I loved Wonder Woman, and to me, one of the most underrated parts of the movie was Robin Wright's role. Oh, I love her. I just saw that she's going to appear in Wonder Woman 1984. While I'm really excited about it, I also can't figure out how they'll do it since she died in the first one. How do you think they're going to explain her return? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, so Robin Wright, who is amazing. Robin Wright is just incredible. By the way, this woman here is 52 years old. She's got muscles on top of muscles. This 52-year-old woman, I guarantee you right now, is in far better physical condition than 99% of us watching or participating in this video right now. And that includes me. It probably includes you. This 52-year-old woman's got muscles on top of muscles. Oh, and by the way, she just still happens to be one of the most stunningly beautiful human beings on the face of the earth. And she's sick talented. It's hard to believe that's Princess Buttercup. It's hard to watch House of Cards and to watch this and go, that's Princess Buttercup. It's crazy to think about that. Anyway, so a report came out that let it be known that she is now filming scenes for Wonder Woman 1984. And there are some headlines running around that Wonder Woman 1984 bringing another dead character back, because we know they're bringing Steve Trevor back, and now they're bringing her back. So the question is, how are they going to explain this? How are they explaining her coming back? Well, the answer to that is actually in the interview. It's in the feature piece they did on Robin Wright, and in an in-depth interview with her, that the information came out that she's reshooting she's doing some scenes and doing some scenes for Wonder Woman. The answer to how they're going to explain it is in that article itself. The women's magazine Porter did this in-depth article and interview with Robin Wright. And here's specifically what it said that some people are missing. It writes, as for work, 3 weeks ago, the 6th and final season of House of Cards wrapped. Now, apart from shooting a flashback sequence in Spain with Connie Nielsen for Wonder Woman 1984 and preparing for her future directorial debut, which starts production in January, Wright is free and eager to devote her time to other passions such as her socially conscious clothing line. Again, let's go back to that first part. As for work, 3 weeks ago, she wrapped House of Cards. Now, apart from shooting a flashback sequence in Spain with Connie Nielsen for Wonder Woman 1984. So really, there's your answer right there. How are they going to explain Robin Wright being back? It's just that. It's a flashback. And I think some outlets and blogs and people on Twitter, they saw and they read in the article, oh, she's coming back to shoot, but they missed that one kind of key word. Now look, I'm all for this. I think I was devastated when she died in the movie, because that meant we're not going to see this character more. I love Connie Nielsen's character too. The way she's awesome in this role. Even if it's just a flashback, I am stoked that we're going to see these two performers on screen together again. It's very exciting to me. I thought she was great in the first one. I wish we could see ongoing adventures of her, but if all we can get is a flashback, I'm more than willing to take a flashback. So that's how they're bringing her back. All right, let's move on to topic number 4. And we're going to talk about the aforementioned Crazy Rich Asians, because this question comes to us from no name attached. It said, hey, John, hope you're well. With Crazy Rich Asians cleaning up at the domestic box office in America, it seems odd its worldwide take is so small in comparison. I appreciate it hasn't opened everywhere yet, but it only has a few markets left. Equally, though, Black Panther, an amazing movie, was almost 50-50 on its total box office between domestic and worldwide, with domestic just edging out a higher take. What do you think of why Crazy Rich Asians isn't doing as well overseas? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, one could look. Actually, no, I'm going to pull up the box office thing. Crazy Rich Asians box office. And so, like I said before, it's already made about 130 million worldwide, right? 117 of that 130 million has come all from the domestic box office, right? It's all come from the domestic box office, which means the amount of money it's made overseas is just in the teens. Well, why is that? Well, there's a couple of small reasons, but then there's a big reason. Couple of the small reasons. Number one, it's not a franchise. Big North American franchises tend to do better overseas. Number two, it's got no big name draw in it. There's no big famous celebrity name. Those also tend to do pretty well overseas. But the biggest reason is simply this. You said in the email that it's almost opened everywhere now. The fact of the matter is, it hasn't. As a matter of fact, I think it's only like 8 international markets that it's either opened in or being counted so far. Because when you go to the report, the international report for Crazy Rich Asians, you see that Australia, Hong Kong, Iceland, Italy, Netherlands, South Africa, Taiwan, and the United Arab Emirates are the only international markets that are being counted towards it so far. There's a bunch of other markets it has opened yet, but has not yet got their reporting numbers in. And one of the biggest presences this movie is going to have, which is in China. It hasn't opened in China yet, and it hasn't opened in dozens and dozens and dozens of markets. So while you can say, hey man, it's almost opened everywhere, actually it hasn't. Now, I'm not sitting here suggesting that Crazy Rich Asians, once it opens in all these other international markets, that it's going to be a $500 million movie. No, I'm not suggesting that at all. But what you will see is that the international numbers will get a little bit closer to the domestic numbers. It won't be as low because it just hasn't opened, including a lot of key international markets that are going to be very favorably disposed towards a movie like Crazy Rich Asians. So, smaller reasons, it's not a franchise yet, has no big name star power to draw on, which happen to be and generally tend to be more friendly for worldwide audiences and stuff like that. But more specifically because it just hasn't opened in many places yet. And that's the biggest reason why we haven't seen big international box office numbers yet for Crazy Rich Asians. Again, I'm not saying it's going to make $300 million internationally, not at all, but you are going to see that gap between the domestic number and the international close a bit once it does hit more markets. All right. With that out of the way, let's move on to the final emailed in topic today. And the final emailed in topic today comes to us from Matthew Yamasaki, who writes, I'm a big fan of the Now You See Me franchise and was starting to wonder what's going on with Now You See Me 3. Is it still in the works? Thanks for taking my question and bring on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for sending in the question, Matthew. And yeah, so Now You See Me 1 made a little over $300 million. Now You See Me 2 made a little bit less than that, and it dropped almost in half at the domestic box office. And it wasn't a good movie. Now You See Me 2 just wasn't all that good of a movie. Quite honestly, I don't think either of the Now You See Me films are all that good. To be really frank with you, I don't think either of them are all that good. And when you look at the Rotten Tomatoes ratings, even some of the vague audience ratings, you can't really count on audience ratings, but even if you just look at them for anecdotal support, the approval ratings from both critics and fans dropped significantly from Now You See Me 1 to Now You See Me 2. However, as Matthew points out, back in 2015, it was announced that they were going to do Now You See Me 2 and Now You See Me 3. They were going to do Now You See Me 3. They announced it. They're going to do it. And John Chu had signed up to direct it. Now, John Chu, speaking of Crazy Rich Asians, has directed Crazy Rich Asians. And so that is working for him right now. So I don't know what he's going to have going on with Now You See Me and whatever. Look, I think the bottom line is this. I think the reception that Now You See Me 2 got pretty much probably put the brakes on it. I mean, Now You See Me 2 still did okay at the box office. It still made over $300 million. Not quite as much as the first one, but it still did pretty good. Still not bad. But I think the reception to the film taking a nosedive probably made the studio pretty apprehensive about, like, if we make a third one, our audience is likely to come out, because it seems like the critics and the audiences didn't like number 2 all that much. Now, not taking anything away from your opinion, Matthew. Clearly, you do like the second one, and that's great. There are other people out there who liked it too. But I think the studio at this point, they're probably looking at the majority and thinking, this one did not get, it's not like the first one had runaway positive buzz. But it was, most people seem to enjoy it. I didn't. But the second one, you can't say the same about. And so you'd probably be looking at having roughly the same budget or more, with probably a continuing diminishing returns on the box office. Is there a lot of incentive there to do another one? And that's probably what derailed it. Look, I have not heard any official announcement saying that Now You See Me 3 is officially dead. I have not heard that, not at all. But my guess is that it's probably dead, because John Chu has also they recently announced he's officially back on board to do China Rich Girlfriend, which is the sequel to Crazy Rich Asians. And that's going to be his priority. His priority isn't going to be Now You See Me 3. His priority is going to be China Rich Girlfriend. Because now they've got a potential franchise that's got really positive word of mouth. Everybody's loving this film, blah, 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 blah. So I got a feeling that would push it off even more. So honestly, Matthew, I don't think we're going to see Now You See Me 3. I know that probably breaks your heart a little bit, but I will admit for me, it's just as well. Didn't enjoy the second one. I feel bad for people like you that did enjoy it. It would have been nice if you could have gotten a third, but I got a feeling it's just not going to happen. But who knows? Stranger things have happened, right? So let's not rule it out entirely. All right. With all that out of the way, guys, we're going to save some time here to take some of your live questions. You guys have been firing in live questions already, so let's jump over there. We still got about 25 minutes left. So we're going to start things off with Ben Heyusa, who writes, Never mentioned this yet, but I'm a 27-year-old guy who, in appearance, looks 17. So when I go to see an R-rated movies like Happy Time Murders or Deadpool 2, I was asked for my ID. Doesn't happen often, though. I'll tell you what, who else that happens to a lot is my wife, Ann. Happens to my wife, Ann. Because there's this running joke. Actually, we're listening to the novel of China Rich Girlfriend right now. And there is a line in China Rich Girlfriend that goes, yeah, we go from looking 21 and then the next day we'll look like we're 95. There's just something about, and Ann's told me that joke before too. There's something about like Asian people, man, that it's almost unfair genetically. They always look young. And until they're like in their mid 50s or 60s, and then all of a sudden they look 60, which is kind of a running joke around my house. But Ann is in her mid 30s now, right? You'd never guess. She still gets carded everywhere we go. Whether we're going into a bar, or whether we're going into a club in Vegas, or whether we're going to sometimes an R-rated film, they'll want to see her ID. It still happens. It still happens. You know, if that happens to me, I would feel flattered. But it happens to Ann because it happens so much, she actually gets irritated by it. So I don't know if you get irritated by that, Ben, but it happens to my wife all the time. All right, Comic Game writes, whatever happened to Jamie Foxx's Mike Tyson movie? It just never got off the ground. I mean, but that's the truth of a lot of these films. Like a lot of these films. And by the way, I think they're still going to try to do it. But you know, there's controversy surrounding Mike Tyson. Right? There's controversy surrounding Mike Tyson. He was convicted for assaulting his wife. I mean, and in a Me Too era, that's a tough sell. That's a tough sell to make a movie about a guy who was convicted and went to jail for assaulting his wife. It's a tough sell. Now, I haven't heard that it's been completely derailed, but my guess at this point is at the very least it's been postponed. But remember, it was never officially greenlit anyway. I mean, this is yet another one of those examples where lots of movies start to come together. Like, there are pitches made, there's 1,000 pitches made every day in Hollywood. We got an idea for this movie. We've got this director says he'll be attached, and we got these actors committed to being in it who are attached if we can get a green light, right? And then a studio say, oh, okay, we'll develop something and let's see how it's coming together. And then maybe we'll greenlight it, maybe we won't. This Mike Tyson thing was never a film that was greenlit, to the best of my knowledge. And I could be wrong about that, but to the best of my knowledge, it was never greenlit. So it's just another one of those projects that, yeah, people say, hey, we're working on this. But about 8 out of every 10 of those movies never actually come to fruition. And I have a feeling that Mike Tyson, being the subject matter of it, in today's cultural context, is a tough sell. So I'm guessing at the very minimum it's been delayed, if it's going to happen at all. So that's just my best guess. Ben Hayusa follows up with thoughts on the WCW movie Ready to Rumble. Not very good. With David Arquette. As a longtime wrestling fan, I think it's a fun little movie. Favorite WCW wrestler? Mine is Sting and Goldberg. It's hard to say who your favorite WCW wrestler is. I'm just going to look up an image here. Because, like, there is so... Like, when you ask, who's your favorite WCW wrestler? Are you asking, who's your favorite WCW... Who's your favorite wrestler to ever wrestle in the WCW? Or are you asking for, who's your favorite wrestler who only wrestled in the WCW? Because there's a lot of turnover, right? Diesel was in WWE and WCW. Scott Hall was in both. Bret Hart was in both. Randy Macho Man Savage was in both. Sting was in both. DDP was in both. On and on. Eddie Guerrero was in both. Chris Benoit was in both. On and on and on. So it really all it's hard to know how to answer that question. So I'm going to take a pass on answering that question. What did I think about Ready to Rumble? I honestly, I didn't like it. And I was really into wrestling at the time, but it's a pretty bad movie. So I didn't like it. And even though Oliver Platt was in there playing like the heavyweight champion, which was a crazy thing. And by the way, that's one of the things that killed the WCW was David Arquette. They made David Arquette the heavyweight champion. But let me tell you a quick little story about David Arquette. So I had a chance to, let me tell the story. It was my first trip to LA ever, right? is my first trip to LA. Let me see if I can get this image a little bit bigger for you. First trip to LA ever. And I was visiting town, and I put on the movie blog that, hey, I was visiting LA for a month. So I was going to be in Los Angeles for a month. And the very first celeb, what happened was I got an email from David Arquette's publicist. Because David Arquette had just made and directed this little horror film about the Tripper, I think is what it was called. It was a total stoner movie, right? And it's about the serial killer who ran around in a Ronald Reagan mask and axing people up as they were off at some festival getting high. It was kind of a crazy little movie. It was actually kind of a fun little movie too. I got a kick out of it. Anyway, so David Arquette put a bunch of his friends in it. He directed and blah, blah. And I was doing the movie blog, and I actually got an email from David Arquette's publicist saying, hey, David is doing the premiere of his new film. I believe it was called Tripper. I might be wrong about that. At the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, which they do a lot of movie screenings at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and said, he'd like to invite you to come down and see the movie. I'm like, it was the first time I'd ever had anything like that. And so anyway, I'll bring this picture up again. Went down, met David, and it didn't hurt that at the time I had a massive crush on his wife. Because at the time he was married to Courtney Cox, and I had a massive celeb crush on Courtney Cox for a long time. But I got to tell you, man, David Arquette, he was super nice. Really, really nice. Very pleasant guy. Hung around, chatted until I finally said, like, he never pulled himself away. He chatted until I said, well, I should let you get back to it. Like, he was engaging and very hospitable and really cool. So, I hear stories about David Arquette once in a while, and I'm not going to say any of them aren't true. All I can tell you is my experience with the dude, and the dude was super fantastic. Like, just really fantastic. Unfortunately, my opinion of that one particular movie, Ready to Rumble, is not so hot, I got to admit. All right, Ben Rayner writes, George Lucas and Carrie Fisher were the kissing couple on the bridge in Hook. It's funny, because that came up in a companion video this week that I had just found out recently. Like, I knew Carrie Fisher did a cameo in Hook. I knew that, but I didn't realize that George Lucas had done a cameo in Hook as well. And a few people have been sending me that, and then I got some tweets this weekend as well, people sending me still shots of that very same scene, Ben. So, yeah, it's crazy what you find out. Comic Game follows up. Who are Marvel's Batman and Superman? Well, it depends on what do you mean by Marvel. Do you mean Marvel Comics or Marvel movies? Since we talk about movies here, I'll assume you mean the movies. To me, the Batman and Superman of Marvel movies are Captain America and Iron Man. It's not an exact comparison, but to me, that's the closest one. To me, they are the two most important figures in the MCU, is Captain America and Iron Man. Hence, Civil War was such a big deal. So I think those two are the Batman and Superman of the universe. That's my guess anyway. James Welsh writes, with acclaim out of Venice, are you hyped for A Star is Born? Yeah, it hasn't been all positive acclaim. There have been some negative things, but overwhelmingly, the response to A Star is Born has been really positive, like really good. Everybody's saying Bradley Cooper did a magnificent job directing it, and everybody's saying Lady Gaga, who's been very quietly getting a lot of on-screen experience the last number of years. And it helps that this is a musical and she gets to belt it out and sing. They're all saying she's very good in it. They're saying that, Bradley Cooper gets all the right narrative beats and the whole thing. Just some really good stuff. Again, it's not all super positive. There was one of the articles in the Hollywood Reporter was a little bit more tempered. It was, the movie's good, but it kind of loses and missed some opportunities here and there and blah, blah, blah. So it's not all overwhelmingly positive, but for the most part, it's quite good. And I've been excited about this movie, not before I saw the trailer, but once I saw the trailer, I got excited for it. Because that trailer is a great trailer. It's a really good trailer. And, but yeah, I'm excited about it. Tyler Yeats writes, hey, John, the show gets me through some tough times. Just wanted to say thanks and keep up the good work. Well, thanks so much, Tyler. And yeah, man, that is one of the great things about the online community. Whether it's my show or another show that you watch, whatever. One of the great things about particularly the online movie community is that it's a great oasis, it's a great escape, it's a great time to just give our mind a breather so we can come back and face our problems with a fresher perspective and all that kind of stuff. It's one of the great things about movies. Get some joy, get some inspiration, get whatever. And I'm really, really glad, Tyler, that the online movie fan community can be here for you in that way. And I'm honored to be a part of that with you as well. So thank you so much for that, dude, and keep on keeping on. All right, Ben Rayner writes, do you think Sam Jackson was miscast in the Star Wars movies? I found the portrayal of Mace to be boring and against the type of character Sam usually plays. Well, I don't mind that it's against the type of character that Sam usually plays. That's fine. That's what actors do. So that's fine. I will admit, to me, it is not one of the bigger problems of the prequels. And everybody knows how much, I just talked about how much I love Sam Jackson on the companion videos this weekend. But I will admit that, yeah, I always kind of felt that Samuel Jackson was probably a little bit miscast. I think he did a fine job in it. And again, I have no problem that they cast him to play a character different from what he normally does. That's what actors should do from time to time. But yeah, it never quite felt right to me. And I don't attribute that to Samuel Jackson's talent. I attribute it to the fit. So, yeah, I'll say I've always kind of thought Samuel Jackson was a little bit of a miscast for that. Despite the fact that he's a brilliant actor, I felt that one was a little bit of a miscast. James Welsh writes, did anyone see the Meg success coming? You think we will get a sequel? Well, I mean, look, I honestly didn't think it would get as high as it got now. I didn't think it would only make $100 million either. But there were some people out there. I know I've exchanged with people online before the movie came out where I said, I'm seeing 300 million it makes. I'm seeing it makes 300 million, right? And some people are saying, I don't know, John, I see it coming in 4 or 5. Guess what? They were right. So I think there were some people who saw this coming. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's not like the Meg is a massive blockbuster. It was an expensive movie to make, but they are fairly, now they've crossed that breaking even point. They've comfortably crossed the breaking even point. And that's great. I don't think they're going to do a sequel. I mean, if the movie goes on and makes $600-700 million, well, then maybe they will. But at this dollar figure, I don't know that it's going to hit 500. I don't think it will. But I never thought it would get this high either. But just because I was one of the dumb ones, that doesn't mean there weren't some smarter ones out there. And I had online discussions with a lot of you guys who thought it could hit $400 to $500 million, I should say. And sure enough, it did. So yeah, James, there were some people, some of the very people in this chat board who saw that coming, even though I wasn't one of them, to be honest with you. History Soup writes, Michael Keaton as Thomas Wayne / Batman and Joker. Nah, it's a shtick. It's too much of a shtick. They're not shared universes. They're not anything like that. So to do that's a bit of a shtick. So I don't think Warner Brothers would do that. I mean, off the top of your head, yeah, it sounds like, ooh, that would be cool. But when you really think about it, to me, it's too shticky. So I'm going to guess no. And I love Michael Keaton, but I just don't think that's the right thing to do. But hey, that's just my opinion. Rami J. Royster writes, when will we see Beta Ray Bill in the MCU? I honestly don't know if we ever will. I don't know. It's a tough character to do. No more difficult to do than Korg, to be honest, but it depends on what they're going to do with Thor moving forward. Let's put it this way. I don't see them using Beta Ray Bill in the MCU without Thor. Do they have plans for Thor beyond Avengers 4? I don't know yet. I hope they do. I mean, the Thor character is now on a massive roll after Thor Ragnarok and becoming a lot of people's favorite character in Avengers Infinity War. There is a lot of Thor momentum right now. But do they have any plans for Thor after Avengers 4? I just don't know. They could have Thor die off in Avengers 4. They may write him out of the MCU at the end of Avengers 4. And so I think the question becomes about, are they going to have more Thor? Because without more Thor, I don't see them going to Beta Ray Bill. I don't see that happening. So let's see after Avengers 4 if there's going to be more Thor Son of Odin movies. Because if there's not, then I think that seals that. I think that seals it. And I could be wrong about that, but hey, let's wait and find out. All right, Sebastian writes, please explain more about indie films being at theaters. You said no open screens. I'm alone in movies often. No chance to slip them in. I want to cancel Movie Pass. I don't know what you're asking, Sebastian. Please explain more about indie films at big theaters. I mean, look, I've got big theaters up the street, and they often have some indie films in them. They often do. Actually, if I open up, I'm going to just open up. I've got 3 AMC theaters near me here, right? I'm going to open up the AMC theaters right now. Okay, so right now, playing at the AMC Burbank 6, we've got Papillon, which is a smaller film. So that's playing there. At the AMC 8, I don't know, AMC 8 normally only plays the big films, but let's see if they got anything at AMC 8 right now. Juliet Naked is playing at the AMC 8, which is a smaller film. So that one is there. Stree, which is a Hindi movie, that's playing there. So that's a smaller one. Destination Wedding, which is an indie film, is playing there. Margaya Oye Loco, which is a Punjabi film spoken with English subtitles, is playing there. So that's a couple of AMC theaters. There's 4 smaller indie or foreign films playing there right there. I mean, they do play, but you are going to see the bigger theaters have much more of the bigger films because those are the films that make the money. Those are the films that make the money. And is there not room for more of these indie films? Well, here's the thing. These movie theaters are about making money. If in all of their studies and all of their decades of experience, if they think, hey, putting in this indie film here right now could make more money than The Meg in its 5th week, then that's what they would do. If they don't think that, then they're going to keep The Meg on that screen. And so you're always going to see the majority of screens taken up with the bigger films. That's always going to happen because it's a business. They're trying to make money. So, but at the same time, like I said, I just ran off a couple of my local AMC theaters. They've got a bunch of smaller indie and foreign films playing. So they are there, but they're always going to be in the minority compared to the bigger films because those are the films people are going to go see. Izzy Alonso writes, Searching only made $5.7 million. I'm disappointed. It's a really good film. Talk about Hollywood not making enough original films, yet no one goes to see them. Oh, yeah. I mean, so we talked about this the other day. Hollywood makes tons of original films. More original films are made today than in any other time in Hollywood history. But a lot of people don't see them. Now, the thing about Searching is this. It does not look good. I mean, that's the thing. See, unlike Shane Black's Nice Guys with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, which looked awesome. That looked awesome. Big stars, looked awesome, great director, trailers were fantastic, and people didn't go out to support it. I gotta say, I still haven't seen Searching. Ann and I were going to go see it yesterday afternoon, but we were too tired, came home and took a nap because we had our Dungeons and Dragons night last night, so we felt like taking a nap before. We were going to go see a movie before our D&D group last night, but we were just like, yeah, we're tired. Let's just go home and take a nap. So we went home and took a nap before our D&D group. But anyway, that's what you can do on a Sunday. And everybody I know who's seen Searching loves it. But the fact of the matter is, the trailer sucked. The trailer for Searching was awful. I had no interest in that movie until I heard people I know see it and telling me that's fantastic. Now I want to go out and see it. But the trailer was terrible. So it's not like a Nice Guys situation where everything looked great and yet people didn't go out to support it. This is a movie that doesn't look good. From all reports, it is very good. But it didn't look good. And so that didn't do it any favors either. And that's one of the big drawbacks to that. Trevor Johnson writes, one of two, watched the new Predator trailer and am about 90% sure that the movie trailer voice guy is Peter Cullen. Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. He voiced the Predator, the clicking sound, and Optimus Prime. I just haven't seen anything credited yet. I have no idea. Honestly, did Peter Cullen do... Hold on a second. I got to look this up. If that's true, that Peter Cullen did the vocalization, the sounds of the Predator. If that's true, I had no idea. Peter Cullen, the Predator, uncredited voice right there. See? Learn something new every day. in the film fan community. I had no idea. I had no idea. Dude, now, is he the same thing in The Predator? Now, you said you haven't seen any credits for it. Let's see. No. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the credits. So I'm gonna guess no. But I'm just thrilled that you wrote that in because I had no idea that was Optimus Prime who did the voice of the Predator. That's so cool. I mean, it's possible he's doing the new one as well, but it doesn't look like it. Doesn't look at it at this point. Okay. Next one. Rami J. Royster writes, thoughts on the trailer for Hellfest? It looks like the era of slasher films is returning with Halloween as well. Haven't seen the trailer to Hellfest. Honestly, I've never even heard of it, so I can't comment on it. Sorry about that. Call of Duty God writes, hey John, do you remember Sneakers with Robert Redford? Dude, we've talked about this film like 3 different times in the last couple of weeks. Like ad nauseum, we've talked about this. Do I remember it? I love that movie. That movie's awesome. The scene when they're trying to break into the office and right at the beginning, and they can't figure out the door lock. When they do, it's priceless. First of all, look, we've already talked about Sneakers a number of times the last couple of weeks, but let me say it again. This movie's awesome. And I know Robert Redford has done some all-time classic, iconic Hollywood. Whether it's Butch Cassidy or on and on. He has done some of the most iconic films of all time, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't matter. To me, my favorite Robert Redford film of all time will always be Sneakers. I love this movie. Love it. And, the James Earl Jones cameo at the end is just fantastic. Dan Aykroyd's great in. I mean, it's just, the cast is fantastic. The story is fantastic. The villain is great. Ben Kingsley's awesome in it. It's got heart to it. It's got laughs in it. It's exciting. It's thrilling. I mean, it's Sneakers, man. It's Sneakers. You gotta see Sneakers. So if you have not seen it, listen to Call of Duty and make sure you check that out because the movie's just priceless, man. It's absolutely priceless. Rick Cruz writes, John, if he hadn't been cast as Aquaman, do you think Jason Momoa would have made a good Kraven the Hunter? Tom Holland said it a while back, and I agree. Same thing as I'll always say. Do I think X actor would be good in X role? Sure, he's a good actor. Sure, he would have been good. And 50 other actors would have been good too. So, I mean, that's, I always answer that same way. John, do you think actor could play X role or X actor could play X role? As long as it's a good actor. I think Jason Momoa is an underrated actor. I really do. I think he's an underrated actor. I think he's got great screen presence. I love him as Aquaman. Would he be a good Kraven? Sure. And so would 50 other guys. But yeah, he would be because he's a good actor. So as long as it's a good actor, he's got the physical presence for it, sure. So would he? Yeah. I also thought he could have been a pretty good Batman. I'm not kidding. I thought Jason Momoa would make a pretty good Batman. But anyway, let's see. Joshua Howard writes, I think WWE returned for Dave. I don't know that he has any interest in going back to the WWE, to be honest with you. I think he did that for a while. I think he enjoyed his time there. I honestly have never gotten the impression from him that he, really sits around at home and thinks wildly fondly of those days and really wants to go back. I don't know that he does. And look, he's a smart guy. He's managed his money. He knows right now he has enough money to live comfortably for the rest of his life and to make sure his kids live comfortably for their lives. He's not super mega rich, but he's got more than enough money, and he doesn't need this business anymore. He wants to be in it. He wants to be good. He wants to keep getting better, but he's also seems to have a set of principles that he's not willing to backtrack on just for the sake of a job. And I respect that. I do. But honestly, I don't think he's going back to the WWE. I never got that sense from him. I would get a kick out of it if he did, but I just don't think he's got that interest. Barth Revan writes, just watched Moulin Rouge for the first time. Love that movie. Loved everything after the first 20 minutes. I will never hear your song the same way ever again. You can tell everybody this is your song. Ewan McGregor can sing, everybody. By the way, the Roxanne part is one of my favorite parts. But yeah, you can tell everybody this is your song. The whole that movie, Moulin Rouge, not in my top 10, but I've always said it's in my top 20. Moulin Rouge is in my top 20 favorite films of all time. The use of color and images and music, and there's a vivaciousness to this, unrelenting vivaciousness to it. And if you've never cried in a movie, you very well may cry in Moulin Rouge. It's fun. It's wild. The cinematography in Moulin Rouge is crazy good. The music is energetic and exciting. It's got real emotion. It's a freaking fabulous movie. I even love the first 20 minutes, man. I love it all. I love this movie. Nicole Kidman, probably my favorite Nicole Kidman performance. Ewan McGregor, probably my favorite Ewan McGregor performance of all time. Who knew that the dude could sing? And especially in your song, he really belts it out. If you haven't watched Moulin Rouge, guys, watch Moulin Rouge. It's amazing. Jared Vester writes, I feel like I haven't seen Miles Teller in a lot of movies as much as I used to. Besides being cast for Top Gun 2, do you feel the same? And if so, why is that? He's a fantastic actor. No, he's been very busy. Miles Teller's been very busy. He had a couple of big movies in 2017 alone. Hold a second. He had 2 really big movies, including Only the Brave. Hold a second. The one he did with Josh Brolin and Taylor Kitsch. The one about the firefighters, the true story. So he did, first of all, he did that. He had a really critically acclaimed turn in Thank You for Your Service, which was in 2017, and Only the Brave. He had 2 major films in 2017. In 2018, he's been doing a TV series, which keeps you very busy. And he's got this animated thing he did a voice for. And now he's shooting Top Gun Maverick. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 films in 2016 with Bleed for This, War Dogs, which he was awesome in. Get a Job. He was in Elysia. I mean, no, man, he's stayed very busy. And I agree with you. He's a very good actor. He hasn't always been in the best movies, and he doesn't make the best choices of movies to be in. But, you know, J.K. Simmons, who won an Academy Award for his role in Whiplash, he said, like, there's no way I win that award if it wasn't for Miles Teller. There's no way I win that Academy Award if it wasn't for Miles Teller. Just because of how good Miles Teller's performance was in that movie. And it's a shame because J.K. is so good in that movie. And of course, he won the Academy Award for that movie. So whenever we talk about Whiplash, we think of Damien because, you know, all the directing he's done. He went on to do Damien Chazelle, who went on to direct La La Land, and now he's doing First Man. So we talk about that when we talk about J.K. Simmons. What is really unfortunate is that we forget to talk about Miles Teller. That movie is not as good if it wasn't for Miles Teller. Miles Teller is a really solid actor. And you may not like some of the movies he's in, and that's fine. But as a performer, all the Hollywood directors know they can count on Miles Teller to deliver a good performance. They all know it. And he's been keeping quite busy, man. He's been keeping quite busy. Tom Foster writes, hey, John, watched The Beyond on Netflix. Documentary-style movie with interstellar vibe. Thought it was awful. I'm not surprised. I didn't bother watching it because Netflix movies generally suck, so I have not seen it myself. Thank you for reaffirming my underlying belief that there are exceptions. I know there are a couple of exceptions. There are a couple of quite good Netflix movies, but for the most part, the vast majority of them are just garbage. But I haven't checked that one out, and thank you for making sure I save my time, Tom, and that I don't waste any time on it. All right. Raymond Verada writes, I know you don't like pineapple on pizza, but how about pineapple on a hamburger? Nope. Try the Aloha Burger at Jollibee's, a Filipino joint at Eagle Rock Plaza. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, Jollibee's is a very popular Filipino chain. And Anne, actually on our Dungeons and Dragons nights, she will sometimes go and get Jollibee's because everybody takes turn bringing food for dinner so we can eat while we're playing. And a couple times Anne has ran and got Jollibee. By the way, their fried chicken is pretty damn good. I'm not generally a fan. I'll be honest with you. Anne gets really annoyed with me. I'm not a huge fan of Filipino food normally, but some of it is like chicken adobo, pork adobo. Oh my God. There's this place called Fiesta de Barrio. that's in between Burbank and Glendale. It's an all Filipino place. They make a pork adobo and a chicken adobo that is that you get, if you're ever in the California area, find Fiesta de Barrio, and it's right in between Glendale and Burbank, and order the garlic fried rice with either a pork or a chicken adobo or a mix. You can get it mixed. Oh my God, to die for. But anyway, but then Anne introduced me to Jollibee's as well. It's like, damn, the food from Jollibee's is actually really good. But no, I do not like pineapple on anything. I do not like pineapple on anything, says Sam I Am. All right, last question of the day, guys. Then we got to wrap it up. This one comes to us from James Bonner, who writes, "Hey, John, recently watched Three Billboards. Amazing film. Terrific movie, great character development. Rockwell was amazing." You know the funny thing about that movie, let me just pull it up here. The thing is about that movie, the real brilliance of that movie is that even a lot of people who love the movie, I think, missed the point of what the movie was really about. I think a lot of people missed the point of what it was really about. And to me, what it was really about was about anger. The movie's about anger. And what happens to people, and then it looks at several different people. And it's really a study of what anger and pain has done to them. And it starts with Frances McDormand and her character, but it moves beyond that. It looks at Sam Rockwell, and how, I mean, at first you just think he's a dick of a character, but then it becomes a study that this character became this way because of pain and anger. Frances McDormand's life became dominated by pain and anger. And then it looks at different characters and people who try to stand against that. It's, oh my God, it's so good. Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri is an absolutely outstanding film. There's a reason it won all those Academy Awards. If you haven't seen it, you absolutely must. And you know what the funny thing is? Rockwell won for Best Supporting Actor, and that's great. But also nominated for Best Supporting Actor was Woody Harrelson. And he just as easily could have won. I think one of Woody Harrelson's best performances ever is in Three Billboards. It's a stunning movie, stunning accomplishment. Not a ton of people went to go see it because it looks like a slower drama. And it is a slower drama. It is. But it is narrative stuff. It's a movie that speaks to the human experience, and it's so fucking good. It's so good, guys. Check it out. And so thank you for bringing that up, James. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today. But listen, guys, don't worry. From Rami J. Roysters and Alex Teeks, all the way down. Don't worry. I'm going to take up your questions here. Everybody who sent in a question, I'm going to take them up and I'm going to answer your questions in the next companion video we do. We've just run out of time for today, but don't worry. Your questions that you sent in will get answered. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Listen, I want to remind you guys, do me a favor. The whole channel here really exists because of you guys, and particularly our Patreon supporters. Do me a favor. If you're somebody who enjoys this program, do me a favor and just take a second to check out www.patreon.com/JohnCampea. Get the information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps this channel on the air, and also the benefits of being a Patreon supporter. And then maybe you'll want to become a Patreon supporter too, which would be awesome. Also, don't forget, a little bit later this afternoon I'm aiming for 2 p.m. this afternoon. We have open mic is going to be at 2 p.m. Make sure you come back and join us for that. That's 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hope to see you guys there. That'll do it for me, guys. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.